Welcome to episode 43 of the Courageous Nation podcast. So glad that you're joining me today. We're going to piggyback off of the topic that we were talking about last time together, which is why do we do things that we can't stand? Why do we develop bad habits, and how do we overcome bad habits? And this is really important for you to understand, really going to be helpful for you. Remember, the Courageous Nation podcast is the podcast you listen to if you're on iTunes or Spotify, or you watch if you go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Michael Anthony Official, in order to give yourself a loving kick in the butt and to have me come alongside of you where we travel together to help you move from where you are to where you want to be. My name is Michael Anthony. I'm the host, of course, and if you want to learn more about me, you can go to michaelanthonyofficial.com or couragematters.com. Let's jump right in. Today I want to begin with something that happened to me, a real story, a true story that happened to me when I was in the South Pacific Solomon Islands, which is just north of Australia, actually northeast of Australia, and east of Papua New Guinea. And I was there for a couple of weeks, and middle of nowhere in the remote islands, and lo and behold, I'm holding my arm up if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, I had something bite me, not that I invited something to bite me, but something bit me right here on my forearm, just above my elbow, and it was nothing really significant for me to think about. I scratched it, and it itched a little bit, and I kind of forgot about it, and the next day, I scratched it some more, and it was a little bit more inflamed, and the day after that, it got a little bit more inflamed. I, by this time, put a Band-Aid on it, put some antibiotic, triple antibiotic ointment on it, but it didn't really seem to help much. It got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, until finally, I went to the capital in Honiara and saw a doctor there. And the doctor took one look at it and he said, you know what, that doesn't look too good. And he laid me face down on a table and took this big old needle out, stuck this needle in my butt and injected me with antibiotics. And then I left his office after a bit of pain and came back 2 days later because it was worse. What was happening on my elbow was worse. He looked at it again, gave me another shot, and he kind of laughed. In fact, it wasn't that he kind of laughed. He really did laugh. And he had that kind of a jovial attitude, a big doctor, a big, heavy-set kind of a guy. And he said, I recommend that if you can, you leave the Solomon Islands and you go back to Australia. I had come through Australia. And I said, why? He said, because I'm concerned about this thing that's on your arm that bit you, whatever it was. It's getting worse. It's infected. And I can't treat it here. Now, if you know anything about the Solomon Islands, you never want to end up in the hospital in the Solomon Islands. I know of several instances when I was there when people had relatively easy issues. If we were in the United States or in Australia, they would have been relatively easy to take care of. And the people who went to the hospitals in the Solomon Islands, the people who went to the hospital, actually died. Not a good thing. So I actually cut my trip short. Flew out the next day, I think it was a Thursday flight, flew back to Australia, and I visited with the couple that I was staying with before I left Australia to go to the Solomon Islands. And the gal that that was there, the wife, was a nurse, and she took one look at my elbow and she said, that's it, we got to go to the hospital. I said, get out of here. She said, no, that's really serious, you got to go to the hospital. And I'm telling you, I kid you not, it just looked like a mosquito bite, like an exaggerated mosquito bite. If you ever had a mosquito bite, you scratched it too much and your skin got really inflamed. There was this little bump and it was infected, to a little degree, at least it seemed to me. And I had a Band-Aid on it. She said, no, that's really serious. I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to be on the plane the day after tomorrow and I'll just hop on the plane and about a 16-hour ride from the time you go from Brisbane to, I believe it was Sydney, and then from Sydney to LA. I'll just be on the plane for maybe 14, 16 hours or something like that, and I'll have my doctor look at it at home. She said, no way. She insisted. I went to the hospital in Brisbane, which is called Holy Spirit Hospital, interestingly enough. Went into the ER. The doctor came out and took one look at it and said, we have to operate. I said, get out of here. Get lost. He said, no, we got to operate. Took me into the operating room, and they wanted to give me intravenous antibiotics. And as a cancer survivor, I had my chemotherapy in my right hand, in my right forearm and my right hand. And so the veins in my right arm are not the best. They're hardened. They're not really flexible. They tried for probably about an hour to give me intravenous antibiotics in my right arm to no avail. And the doctor came in one more time as they were, monitoring the bag, the solution. Came in one more time and he said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try one more time. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to stick a big needle in your butt and get these antibiotics into you. He figured he could joke around with me. I looked like a guy that he could joke around with, so he did that. Fortunately, he was successful on the final attempt to get this antibiotic into my arm. So after the whole bag drained, he came back in and he injected my elbow, just my forearm above the elbow where the infection was. Little infection. At least that's what it looked like. He injected it with numbing agent, and then he sliced it open. And when he sliced it open, what was inside of the wound that I could not see on the outside shot across the room and splattered on the wall. And he said, yep, it's a good thing. He said, you've got a serious infection. It was about the size underneath the skin of a golf ball. Only on the surface, it looked like maybe the size of a pea. And I kept saying this again and again. I said, get the heck out of here. Every time they'd tell me something, I'd say, get out of here. When they couldn't put the IV in, the antibiotics, I said, get out of here. He said, yep, you've got a huge infection. And he cleaned it out. He wiped it out and everything. And then he stitched it up. I actually had to get stitches on this thing. I couldn't believe it. And I said to him, so Doc, tell me, what would have happened if I didn't come and see you? I mean, I was just going to go see my doctor. He said, well, what would have happened is you would have gotten on your flight. And, it's about a 15, 16-hour ride. And you would have gone into shock because you had an infection that was brewing in your blood system. You would have gone into shock. They wouldn't have been able to do anything for you on the plane. And you probably would have died. I was like, again, I said, get the heck out of here. I really did say heck. I said, get the heck out of here. I can't believe it. That is an honest to God true story. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because what often are the things that we don't see, the things that we belittle, the things that we don't think are significant, they can end up being some of the most significant things in our lives. And that's what I want to talk to you about today in your life. Sleepwalking, not paying attention to the little things in life that have a cumulative effect. If we don't pay attention to the little things in our lives, they can become not so little. There's this idea of a little thing growing to be a bigger thing and a bigger thing. Oftentimes in life, what we do, typically we all do this in life, we pay attention to the big things, the obvious things, the overt things, the things that are inescapable, that we absolutely cannot miss. They're right in front of our faces. They're there for us to see, and oftentimes other people can see them as well. And this is what makes the little, almost imperceivable things in our lives incredibly dangerous. It's because we don't see them. It's because we don't tend to them that they actually present a bigger threat to us than the things that are obvious and right there staring us in the eye and looming large. Those are the things, the little things in life that if left unchecked, if left unnoticed, if put off until a later date, can come back because they've bitten us and actually be our undoing. What about your life? I know there are things in my life, things that I have become incredibly attentive to, simply because they're small and seemingly imperceptible, seemingly insignificant things. They're seemingly insignificant things. I have begun to pay attention to those because your life can be on autopilot, or the way I described it, sleepwalking. I've got an app on my phone, on my iPhone, and it's a sleep app. It measures the quality of my sleep. It helps me also. I can set it so that I can wake up a certain time in the morning, and it's a sleep cycle app, and it helps me wake up within a certain range. So typically, I have it set between 4:30 and 5:05 in the morning, so that I'm waking up when I'm not in a deep REM cycle. And actually, that's the most ideal time for you to wake up, is when you're not in deep sleep. That's why a lot of times setting an alarm clock, if you're setting your alarm clock and your alarm clock is going off while you're in deep sleep, REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, that can be one of the most disruptive things for you to do. And that's why you might be waking up again and again feeling very tired, very fatigued, and not well rested because you're disrupting your sleep pattern. So I use this sleep cycle app. You can look at it in your Google Store or in iTunes. And I have it set so that it's within a certain range. So as long as I get up between 4:30 and 5:05, sometime when I'm out of REM sleep, I usually have a great day, have a typically great day. But here's the thing. If you are not paying attention to your life, you can actually be asleep even during your waking hours. If you're not paying attention to what's happening around you, there are many people, when you stop and think about it, there are many people who are alive, their heartbeat's beating, their brainwaves are waving, they've got a pulse, but they're sleepwalking. They can be engaging in conversations, they could even be engaging in great work, but they might not be paying attention to the imperceptible things. I'm pointing to my elbow, my forearm here, for those of you who are listening on iTunes and Spotify. They're not paying attention to what seems to be imperceptible. It would be more perceptible, it would be more obvious if people were on the lookout for them. And this is what I want to help you understand in your own life. It's often the things that we don't pay attention to that fester, they get bigger, they get more significant, and they end up causing us to be on autopilot, causing us to be in a state of just making reflexive choices that really aren't so much as a choice as much as there are habits. Now, you heard me talk about before, in the last episode, I talked about the part of your brain, the front part of your brain. There's the prefrontal cortex and there's the orbitofrontal cortex. The orbitofrontal cortex of your brain, which is just above your eye sockets, just above where your eye sockets are, where your eyes are. That is responsible for the habitual decisions, the autopilot decisions that you and I make in the course of our lives. And so 40% of the decisions you make in the course of a day aren't really because they're decisions. It's not because they're decisions. It's because they're habits. It's because there are triggers that happen in the course of our lives. We've developed routines, and we think that we're making choices, but we're really not making choices. We're just engaging in routine activities, repetitive activities. Those are the activities that will cause you to sleepwalk through your life. And if 40% of your daily activities are due to habits, you have to understand the significance of making sure that you're developing and that you're reining in bad habits and you're developing really good habits. Because if not, it's those little decisions that can have a cumulative effect. Eating poor foods day after day after day, little by little by little, not necessarily in large quantities, can have a huge effect in your life. Somebody told me this years ago, and it really stuck with me. What you eat and how you exercise or don't exercise in your 20s shows up in your 30s. What you eat and how you exercise, how you live, your lifestyle choices in your 30s shows up in your 40s. Same thing with your 40s and your 50s. I think you get the idea. So there's a cumulative effect of the things that you're doing and the things that you're not doing. Typically, the small things that add up again and again and again and again. If you're not paying attention, if you're sleepwalking through life, they're going to have a cumulative effect on you. You're going to have a cumulative effect. And the question is, are the things that are having a cumulative effect on your life good things, or isn't it about time that you rein in those bad things, those things that are destructive, those things that I refer to as self-sabotaging behaviors, self-sabotaging behaviors. Now, we can talk about this in a very ethereal, big picture kind of a way, or we can take that big picture discussion that we're having, that big picture way of looking at it, and bring it down to a very tangible, very palatable, very specific way of looking at it, which is really what's going to help you make changes, what's going to help you go from where you are to where you want to be. That's what it's about. That's why we do the Courageous Nation podcast. This is not a podcast to listen to or to watch if you're simply looking for somebody to sympathize with you. I sympathize with you. I empathize. But I also want to help you make fundamental, significant changes in your life. Otherwise, all we're doing is just talking. There are 7 areas in your life that will help you have laser focus in looking at the totality of your life. I'm helping you demystify the way you live your life and the way you walk through your life. And once you see this, once you begin to see life this way, in this simplistic way, you will have a greater ability to be able to wake up, to pay attention to what's happening in your life, and to decrease the instances where you're sleepwalking, where you're not paying attention, where the little things that have a way of undoing you will not be in control of your life because you're living on autopilot or because you're sleepwalking. 7 areas of life. Any goal that you want to set, any activity that you want to engage in, anything that you want to achieve in the course of your life is going to be based in one of these 7 areas. Let me talk about these again because repetition is the mother of all learning. It's the simple things in life that are most significant. And you and I, we live in a day and an age where we have tens of thousands of stimuli coming at us, visual and auditory and sensory, all kinds of stimulation coming to us in the course of every single day. You need to be able to simplify your life and then keep it simple. Keep it simple because our lives gravitate toward complexity. Here are the 7 areas of life where you can be more attentive, where you can have laser focus, where you can make sure you're not sleepwalking, and where you can pay attention to the quote-unquote little things that are habitual things that if you allow them to continue will be the death of you. Now, they might not literally be the death of you in terms of you stop living. They could be the death of you. When I say death, I mean that not only could it be a literal thing, but the death of you reaching your greatest potential. It is all about unleashing your life and living the life that God intended for you and the life that's going to bring you the deepest satisfaction and have the greatest impact in the lives of other people. Listen, if you're not living that kind of a life, then the little things, the habitual choices that you're making, the routine that you're going through is going to undo you. If you're not unleashing your life, if you're not carefully attentive to how you're making progress in your life, then you're sleepwalking. 7 areas of life: relationships, health and fitness, your spiritual life, your financial life, your career, your education, and your rest and your recreation. Those are the 7 areas of life. And when you see each of these 7 areas, when you pay attention to each of these 7 areas, when you're looking at life through the lens of making decisions in each of these 7 areas, life gets really simple. If you're trying to figure out life, if you're trying to get your life organized, if you're trying to move from where you are to where you want to be, understanding and mastering your understanding of these 7 areas of life where you can say them rapidly. Somebody woke you up in the middle of the night, you could just spit them out. Look, I'm able to say them with my eyes closed, and you need to be able to do this too. I have my eyes closed if you're not watching on YouTube. Relationships, health and fitness, spiritual life, finances, career, education, and rest and recreation. There you go. I did it. In fact, I'm not looking at anything. I never really look at notes. There's a couple times, I shouldn't say never say never. I rarely look at notes when I'm doing the podcast because this is coming from my heart and from my mind, because why would I want to try to teach you something that I haven't learned and tried to apply and aggressively, adamantly applying in my own life? Each of these 7 areas of life you need to cultivate, you need to be attentive to, and you need to be focused on to make sure you're not making small decisions that have a cumulative effect that could be undoing you and crushing your potential. Instead of your potential being crushed, you need to crush it with your life. It's the only life you're going to have this side of eternity. And again, if you don't believe in eternity, I'll never hold that against you. Don't hold my belief in eternity, in a life after life, against me. I won't hold whatever you believe against you. Hopefully we can learn from each other and grow from having a conversation. I hope you make comments here on YouTube, and you can also contact me at couragematters.com. By the way, if you go to couragematters.com and you simply subscribe, you're going to get free downloads that you can immediately apply in your own life. They're totally free, and it's going to help you significantly, all right? And for that matter, if you want to get a text message from me, just text the word courage to 24365. Text the word courage right now on your smartphone. Use it wisely. Use your smartphone and text the word courage to 24365. You'll be able to join the Courageous Nation. And anytime I launch something new, anytime I drop something new, you'll be among the first to know, and it's going to help you move forward. Being attentive to each of these 7 areas of life is going to help you get your life off of autopilot. Think about it this way. In your relationships, who are the people that are most important to you, the nearest and dearest people to you, and what are you doing to build into their lives? Are you really a really good listener? Are you somebody who's attentive to your children, attentive to your spouse? Remember, if you ignore your spouse, he or she will go away in one way or another. And a lot of times, couples are living together, but they're not really together. They are emotionally distant. They live under the same roof, but they actually have their hearts sometimes set not only on other desires, but sometimes other people. This is why affairs happen. Emotional affairs, not only physical affairs, but also emotional affairs. If you ignore your spouse, he or she will go away. Same thing with your children. Same thing with your siblings. Same thing with your friends and your best friends. If you habitually ignore, by not paying attention, by not listening, and listen, we all have issues that we're working on, that we're struggling in, that we don't want to be struggling in a stuck way, but that we're struggling in regard to being attentive, right? You've heard it said, the struggle is real. It should be real in your own life. If you're not working on each of these 7 areas of life, then the little things are going to undo you. Remember, the little things are the cumulative things that can actually be the most deadly. It's what you don't see that can often be the most detrimental in your life. So think about your relationships. Who are those people that you want to develop relationships with? Who is it that you've been taking for granted? Think about your finances. You know, the rule of 72. All you have to do is Google the rule of 72, and you'll find out some great information about this, about compounding interest. That's a huge thing. And I got to be honest with you, I came to that financial investing party late. Maybe you have too. I wish I would have known about the rule of 72 when I was in my 20s and in my 30s, because simply by putting aside $100, $200, $300 a month, within just a couple of decades, you can have well over $1 million, if not millions of dollars, because of this amazing miracle of compound interest. Now, at the time, it seems like not a very significant thing, $100, $200, $300 a month, not a very significant thing, but it's a huge thing, because it's the things that often are the simplest, the things that often seem to be the most insignificant, that are the most significant in life. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. I've given you an example there in your finances. Think about your health and your fitness. If you're neglecting your health in your 20s, it's going to catch up with you in your 30s. Same thing with your 40s and your 50s and your 60s. And this is why many people wake up when they're in their 60s and their 70s, sometimes in their 40s and their 50s, and they have terrible, terrible health conditions, health issues, because they overlooked what seemed to be small choices. But here's the thing, they were small choices over an accumulation of time. And those small choices actually aren't very small at all. So these 7 areas of life, if you pay attention to them, relationships, health and fitness, your spiritual life, your finances, your career, your education, and your rest and recreation. These small areas of life, they're actually not very small at all. And you've got to make sure you're not sleepwalking through life. You've got to make sure that you're paying attention, because the small things aren't very small after all. Listen, you know, I love to help you. I love to help you, whether you're listening or whether you're watching. I'm holding in my hand a legacy blueprint, and I'd like to give you one of these for 50% off. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal, because This is a journal unlike any other journal. It's focused on helping you create and craft and live your legacy, the kind of legacy that you're deliberate about, that you're intentional about. It'll help you set and achieve goals in each of the 7 areas of life for the next year to 50 years, depending on where you are in the course of your life. This is what I wish I had when I was in my 20s. You know, you hear people talk about this all the time. They talk about this all the time. You got to set goals. You got to have a plan. You got to have a vision. But the real issue is, how do you set goals? How do you have a vision that's really compelling? How do you develop a life purpose? How do you develop your worldview? I walk you through this in the Legacy Blueprint. Here's how you can get one for free. Just go to CourageMatters.com, go to the store, pick your Legacy Blueprint. By the way, it comes with dozens of lifetime access videos that will walk you through all of the things that I'm talking about and much, much more. Each of the 7 areas of life, setting and creating a vision statement, a life purpose statement, understanding your worldview, and it'll help you set and achieve great goals, meaningful goals, rewarding goals, eternally significant goals, eternally significant goals in each of the 7 areas of life. Go to the store, and when you get your shopping cart, type in, "Give me 50." No spaces, and you use the number 50. Just type in, "Give me 50." That's going to get you the Legacy Blueprint for 50% off. Why would I do that? Because I want to help you. I want to help you stop being miserable. I want to help you stop living below your creative potential. I want to help you reach your potential and maximize your life so that 3 years, 5 years, 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years from now, I hope that you're a young person listening, watching. You'll be able to look back and say, I can't believe how I reached my potential, kept it simple, kept my life focused, all because somebody showed me how to do it. Somebody showed me how to do it. See, I think in the course of life, what happens is a lot of times people talk to us about, here's what you need to do in terms of the big picture. You need to set goals. You need to be focused. You need to be disciplined. But that doesn't show me how to do it. All that does is tell me what I probably, if I've heard it more than one time, already know I need to do. What I need help doing is how to do what I know I need to do. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you? That's what the Legacy Blueprint is going to help you do. It's going to help you be focused, and it's going to help you not waste time. It's going to help you make sure that your life is not undone by little things that seem to be imperceptible now. They don't seem to be so significant, but they will have a cumulative effect in your life. So let me bless you, let me help you, all right? And it makes a great gift too, especially this time of the year when so many people are graduating. And if you know a younger person that could use some direction in life, I guarantee that the Legacy Blueprint is going to blow them away. And by the way, money back guarantee. If you don't love it, send it back to me. I'll give you your money back, no questions asked. But nobody has sent one back yet. Nobody. You know why? Because they realize it's not only a quality journal, the videos are fantastic, and it absolutely fundamentally changes their life. It will help you make sense of your life. Even if you think you have your life together, you can always learn more. You can always grow more. You can always work on unleashing your life, crushing your potential, okay? So I hope this has helped you in understanding that you got to be careful that you're not sleepwalking in your life. You've got to be careful and attentive to the little decisions in life that have a cumulative effect. I can't wait to read your comments on YouTube. And if you message me on Instagram as well, you can DM me on Instagram, which is Michael Anthony Official as well. I'll respond if you DM me. And I'll respond if you make a comment on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and you subscribe, and that you hit the bell too so that you don't miss anything. Don't forget, text the word courage to 24365. Do it right now, and you'll be part of the Courageous Nation, and you won't miss a single thing, all right? Hope we've had a great time together today. I sure have enjoyed giving you this information. That's all I have for today. I'll see you next on episode 44. In the meantime, this is Michael Anthony reminding you, encouraging you to keep looking up. There's no place else worth looking, and keep moving forward.